of a secular politician? You know, on the one hand, they'll fight very vehemently for their citizens, saying that they are being treated like beasts and they deserve better. And yet many of them will promote and fund only science education that sets out to say that all the citizens are is beasts. There are those who will say all war is a waste of life, and then ironically, tragically, many of them also will support policies such as abortion or as euthanasia that signify to the world that they think life is a waste. And the reason this is because somewhere in all of us, we know that there's got to be some reason, some importance, some value about us, but those people who don't know the image of God don't know where that value comes from. And so they just start to pick and choose which lives are valuable. His story tells us, and it has been confirmed in history, that God's every action in this world is predicated on the very fact that our lives have significance because we have been made in the image of God. And grounded in what God tells us, you can know something today, and it'll change you. God doesn't make junk to be discarded. And that can change the way that you look at yourself, and it'll change the way you look at others. And if we were honest, we'd recognize that that's a change that many of us need. You know, in the book of James, it is written that out of the same mouths we will praise God as we have done so today in the songs we have sung, and yet we will curse men. Out of one side of our mouth, we shout out from the mountaintops, I believe. And then from the other side of our mouth, we speak words that show how we forget. We forget to live by the doctrine of the image of God. We don't treat everyone the way that they deserve to be treated. You know, one of my greatest shocks as a young pastor was realizing how we as Christians can talk about others or discard others, but most of all, even how we could talk about each other. And you know what's sad? I just kind of expect this stuff now. I expect the slander and the lack of putting the best construction on things. I no longer believe that I could be surprised by anything or anyone. And that is absolutely tragic. The great author C.S. Lewis once wrote, "The weight of your neighbor's glory, the weight of your neighbor's glory, not your glory, is a burden that you should carry on your back each and every day." And he goes on to say that we have never met a mere mortal. The person that we are next to in the grocery store checkout line is immortal. That person standing on the street corner begging for food is immortal. Our spouses and our children and our parents are immortal. Every one of you is immortal. And what he meant is that every single person, if this story of God is to be believed, is going to experience either immortal horror in the depths of hell or immortal and everlasting splendor and glory with God forever in our heavenly home, which he calls us to. And so, living in the image of God means that we should so desire to reflect the love that we say lives in us to others, so that they may know that same love in their lives. And we do it because we understand the image of God. And so ask, is that a desire of yours? And is that the desire of our nation? You know, it's irrefutable that biblical language at least, and biblical principle for sure, was used at the founding of this country. The founding fathers said, that we have all been endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights. And you only say that if you understand the image of God. Martin Luther King Jr., who fought so vehemently for civil rights, said that whether you were dark black or treble white, you have rights because you are in the image of God. If you don't know yet why what we're talking about today is important, what I'm about to say is why. You're not going to hear that anymore. Or if you do hear the words being said, they don't mean what God's talking about. It's not the attitude that drives the laws around us. This is not the world our children are growing up in. Instead of the image of God, there is something else at play in determining a person's worth. And while I joked about it earlier, it is no laughing matter. It's what I will call the Ginger or Marianne arguments. In other words, who do you deem to be more beautiful? Who do you deem to be more valuable? Just pick one. Discard the other. If you don't think that's true, just remember how we see it manifested more than 1 million times a year in this nation alone through the legal practice of abortion. Precious lives are ended because our lawmakers are not living in the image of God. And our voices as Christians have either been silenced by our own doing or by the evil around us. Our cultural elite are saying we don't believe in God anymore.